Sudan, a nation of immense history, is now the stage for a catastrophic war. El-Fasher, once a sanctuary, has become the epicenter of violence in Darfur. It is the last major city not under the control of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. Now, it stands on the edge of a massacre. The conflict, which erupted in April 2023, is a brutal power struggle between two former allies, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan of the Sudanese Armed Forces, and General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemedti, leader of the RSF. Their ambitions have plunged millions into chaos. What began as skirmishes in Khartoum has become a full-blown civil war, tearing through cities and unleashing a humanitarian disaster. El-Fasher's population swelled as hundreds of thousands fled violence elsewhere, seeking safety. That haven is now a death trap, encircled by the RSF, with indiscriminate attacks striking hospitals and shelters. This is a war on civilians. Homes burned, markets looted, escape routes cut off. The RSF and allied militias are accused of atrocities echoing the genocide of 2 decades ago, ethnically targeted killings, sexual violence, and forced displacement, especially of the Masalit people. The world once promised never again after Darfur's horrors. Today, that promise is broken in the smoke-filled skies over El-Fasher. The city's fate hangs in the balance as the world watches. To understand this war, we must look back to the origins of the RSF. The RSF grew from the Janjaweed militias unleashed by dictator Omar al-Bashir to crush rebellion in Darfur. Their campaign of terror, murder, rape, and displacement was branded genocide. Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, Hemedti, rose as Bashir's brutal enforcer, transforming the Janjaweed into the RSF. Under Bashir, the RSF became a state within a state, controlling gold mines and operating outside the regular army. The Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF, watched with suspicion, but both forces were bound by a desire to keep power. In 2019, millions protested Bashir's rule, demanding freedom and justice. The military, led by al-Burhan and Hemedti, overthrew Bashir, promising civilian rule, a promise quickly broken. Their alliance was never about democracy, but about preserving their own power. Tensions grew over the future of the RSF. A plan to integrate it into the army threatened Hemedti's autonomy and wealth. For al-Burhan, integration was essential. For Hemedti, it was an existential threat. Neither would back down. The deadline for integration in April 2023 became the spark for war. The fragile alliance shattered, plunging Sudan into chaos. The seeds of today's conflict were sown in the violence of the past. Now, the monster they created is devouring the nation. Sudan's hope for democracy was shattered on October 25, 2021. Generals al-Burhan and Hemedti staged a coup, dissolving the civilian government and seizing power. Their partnership quickly soured, as both vied for ultimate control. The RSF deployed fighters across Khartoum, taking strategic positions. The SAF, alarmed, saw its rival entrenching itself in the heart of the nation. Tensions escalated, mediation failed, and war became inevitable. On April 15, 2023, the first shots were fired. Heavy fighting erupted in Khartoum and Meroe, each side blaming the other. The RSF, skilled in urban warfare, quickly seized key sites. The SAF responded with airstrikes and artillery, turning Khartoum into a war zone. Civilians were caught in the crossfire, their lives shattered. The dream of a democratic Sudan was bombed into oblivion by the very men who claimed to protect it. The war spread rapidly, engulfing cities and communities. The rivalry between two generals became a national nightmare. Sudan's revolution was betrayed, and its people left to suffer. The struggle for power has destroyed the hope of a peaceful future. In Darfur, the RSF captured city after city: Nyala, El Geneina, Zalingai, Ed Dain. By late 2024, only El-Fasher remained outside their grasp, a final refuge for 800,000 displaced people. The city was besieged, supply routes cut, and subjected to relentless shelling. Former rebel groups, once enemies of the state, joined the SAF to defend El-Fasher. The city became a tinderbox, civilians trapped in a multi-sided conflict. In autumn 2025, the RSF launched a final assault, overwhelming exhausted defenders. The SAF collapsed, allies retreated, and chaos followed. Reports described looting, burning, and targeted killings. El-Fasher, once a sanctuary, became a scene of devastation. Satellite imagery confirmed large sections razed, displacement camps erased, hospitals destroyed. The RSF's victory gave them near total control of Darfur. but it is a human tragedy of epic proportions. The last government stronghold in the West has fallen, opening a new chapter of suffering. The human cost of this war is staggering. Over 10 million people have been displaced, making this the world's largest internal displacement crisis. More than 2 million have fled to neighboring countries already struggling with instability. Famine is now a reality. Sudan's ability to feed itself has been destroyed. Humanitarian aid is blocked, convoys looted, and millions are on the brink of starvation. The healthcare system has collapsed, hospitals bombed, clinics looted, doctors killed or forced to flee. Outbreaks of disease spread unchecked in crowded camps. Women and girls face an epidemic of sexual violence, often targeted for their ethnicity. Children are orphaned, recruited as soldiers, and deprived of education. An entire generation is being traumatized and lost to conflict. The fabric of Sudanese society is unraveling. This is a man-made disaster, engineered as a weapon of war. The suffering is immense, and the world's response has been inadequate. Sudan's people are paying the highest price. At the heart of Sudan's tragedy is a personal feud between two men. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, a career soldier, leads the SAF and claims to defend national sovereignty. He represents the entrenched Khartoum elite. General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, Hemedti, rose from camel trader to RSF commander, wielding power through loyalty and wealth. Hemedti portrays himself as a champion of the marginalized, but his forces commit atrocities against them. Their war is not about ideology. It's a struggle for control of the state and its resources. Both men were partners in the 2021 coup, united against civilian rule. Their falling out was over power, not principle. Years of mistrust, rivalry, and resentment exploded into war. Neither side will compromise for the good of the people. The fate of Sudan is held hostage by their ambitions. The nation suffers as their feud rages on. Darfur's tragedy is repeating itself. 2 decades ago, the Janjaweed waged genocide against non-Arab populations. Today, their descendants, the RSF, use the same brutal tactics. Ethnic cleansing is well documented. Villages burned, thousands killed, survivors hunted for their identity. The fall of al-Fasher has escalated the risk of full-scale genocide. Non-Arab groups are now trapped and vulnerable under RSF control. The international community hesitates to call it genocide, bogged down in definitions, as people die. The violence aims to change Darfur's ethnic map by force. The world's failure to act then and now emboldens the perpetrators. The promise of never again is being tested, and failing. The global response to Sudan's crisis has been weak and divided. Condemnations and sanctions have failed to change the general's behavior. The RSF is backed by the UAE, the SAF by Egypt and Iran, turning Sudan into a proxy battleground. External support fuels the conflict and undermines peace efforts. The UN Security Council is paralyzed by geopolitical rivalries. Humanitarian aid is underfunded, and Sudan's suffering is overshadowed by other global crises. The world's neglect has created a vacuum of accountability. The people of Sudan have been abandoned by those who promised to protect them. Amid the ruins, hope is hard to find. Sudan is fragmenting, its state collapsed, its people suffering. Yet the spirit of the 2019 revolution endures. Civilians organize resistance, run aid networks, and document abuses. Any real peace must be Sudanese-led, centered on civilian demands. The world must support local aid, enforce arms embargoes, and demand accountability. Sudan's future hangs in the balance. It could splinter further, or rebuild against all odds. A new social contract, justice, and a unified army under civilian rule are essential. The road is perilous, but the dream of a peaceful, democratic Sudan must not die. The world cannot look away. Sudan's hope depends on it.